So thank you all for joining us today to discuss this important bill, SB3, introduced by the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Senator Charles Perry. We want to thank the legislative body of Texas for the overwhelming bipartisan support of this bill. We urge Governor Abbott to sign SB3 into law to protect Texas families from further harm. I am Aubrey Adams, the Director of Citizens for a Safe and Healthy Texas. I come from Pueblo, Colorado, which is the forefront of the marijuana expansion movement. I originally brought my son to Texas to help him recover from his addiction to THC and experiencing symptoms of psychosis and severe GI issues. After achieving 3 years of sobriety, he unfortunately encountered similar problems again due to the Texas products of THC here. Let me be clear. Senate Bill 3 does not ban hemp. It prohibits the manufacture, the sale of hemp-derived THC and its analogs, such as Delta-8 THC, which are synthetically produced by CBD. This bill is a correction bill to get rid of the poison that is synthetic THC. These poisonous products are illegal in the states of Colorado and California, but their states allow their hemp industry to manufacture them and sell them to Texans to poison them. This drug operation is an all-out assault on Texas families and schools. Families in Texas cannot compete with over 8,000 retailers selling drug-infused candies, vapes, and other deceptive products that resemble everyday foods and drinks in our neighborhoods and around schools. Texas THC products are deliberately designed to target young people and hide their use from parents and from schools. These products are intentionally masked with sugary flavors to conceal their toxic tastes. The hemp advocates must refrain from calling synthetic THC medicine and safe for adults to use. My son is an adult, and their products have destroyed his mental and physical health. He was just attempting suicide the other week. Many families are seeking lawsuits against individuals and hemp businesses who impersonate medical professionals and sell these products under false claims. This establishment in Odessa, Texas, is not selling medicine. THC in any form can cause episodes of psychosis, and psychosis is when a person experiences paranoia, delusions, and hallucinations. Psychosis is a state of suffering. It's where an increased risk of a person has in harming themselves and others. In Houston, a teen just shot his mother and sister after having bad emotions from THC edibles. We are sick and tired of the hemp industry stating no one dies from THC. Texas and the federal government does not track THC-related deaths. Most coroners do not test for THC in suicides and with perpetrators who commit homicides. The public should know an extensive study published in the National Institute of Health concluded 47% of people who experience cannabis-induced psychosis will convert to chronic psychiatric disorders such as schizophrenia. This is not reefer madness. This is reefer science. And this is a significant factor in the increase of homelessness and crime in Texas. Additionally, these products are toxic. Many people are experiencing CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, which is a disabling and painful condition that can lead to dehydration, organ failure, seizures, and death. And no, THC is not safer than alcohol. When a person is at a toxic level of alcohol, they can usually vomit it out and achieve homeostasis because it's a water-soluble drug. When a person is at toxic levels of THC, they can't necessarily vomit it out because it's a fat-soluble drug that adheres to the fats in our bodies. Texans don't want their tax money to enable this industry. They don't want to grow their government trying to manage a regulation-resistant industry. In Colorado, it was practically impossible to get more regulations on THC products. Over 50 organizations advocated to get a potency cap on our THC products, and it failed. Later in this press conference, you are going to hear from families that have been devastated by Texas hemp-derived THC. It is very difficult to speak publicly about how THC has harmed our families. The hemp organizations and advocates bully and harass us. For example, they posted a picture of one of my former residents on social media, and they call me horrible names. And back in 2019, when I started educating Texans about the true impacts of THC, Texas Cannabis Collective sent their pot army to censor my voice on Facebook. They screamed that this is about freedom to use, but they sure don't care about the freedom of speech or allowing the public to be informed about the risks of consuming THC. They continue to deny the risk and blame and shame the families, and then harm us into silence. I ask them this: where is the freedom of the people hospitalized from cannabis psychosis? Where is the freedom of the mother and the daughter that were shot by the son in Houston? And why is the media not demanding toxicology reports from the Uvalde shooter and making sure his tissue was tested for THC? I am also tired of the whining and complaining from the hemp industry that they will lose jobs. They chose an industry that sells poison. It's a poor business decision, and they are capable of getting other jobs in Texas' booming economy. I lost my dream job during my son's addiction and psychosis. It wasn't safe for him to be home with my younger son, so I had to be present to make sure everybody was safe. We also ended up losing all our equity to pay for my son's treatment. In time, I recovered. I got other jobs. So they are capable of getting other jobs too. And I'm tired of them acting like they can't. If the hemp industry successfully pressures Governor Abbott into vetoing SB3, we will have thousands more families harmed. The drug and mental illness crisis will increase, and we will all pay the price. Next, I would like to bring up Dr. Rosheim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Matthew Rosheim. I'm an associate professor at a university in Texas, and I also serve as scientific advisor for Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth. I've authored more than 100 peer-reviewed research manuscripts, and in recognition of this work, I've been awarded the 2025 Advocate of the Year Award by CADCA, the largest substance use prevention NGO in the United States, representing more than 7,000 community coalitions, including 100 coalitions in Texas. So for the last 17 years, I've studied the marketing, regulation, use, and health impacts of intoxicating substances. My research has consistently shown how certain industries exploit laws to sell harmful products. But in 17 years, I've never seen such highly potent, dangerous, and illegal substances being sold so openly and widely as they are in Texas today. The industry asks us to imagine how dangerous things might become if marijuana were sold illegally in Texas. But we don't have to use our imaginations, because that's exactly what's happening today. Right now, the so-called hemp industry is selling extremely potent, synthetic, and often illegal marijuana products throughout the state. Current laws make it nearly impossible for law enforcement or even consumers to know which products are legal and which are not. And the distinctions that do exist are largely meaningless when it comes to protecting community health and safety. I'd like to take a moment to address a few inaccurate claims that are made today by the psychoactive hemp industry and provide some facts to refute these claims. First, I'd like to address the aspect of farmers in Senate Bill 3. Senate Bill 3 specifically addresses health and safety code in the Texas Constitution and has nothing to do with agriculture code. There's nothing in Senate Bill 3 that applies to farmers, and the farmers in Texas will be able to continue to farm hemp this year at the same as they were, and next year the same as they were this year and the year before. I'd also like to remind everyone here that under current Texas law, section 443, subsection 204, the processing or manufacturing of a hemp product for smoking is illegal in Texas under current law. So any farmers that are saying that they're growing hemp for smoking purposes are doing so unlawfully according to the current law. I'd also like to note that the state of Texas currently has approximately 125 million acres of farm and ranch land today, and information requests filed with the Texas Department of Agriculture show that only 181 acres of hemp were harvested and tested in Texas last year. This is information that's legally required to be reported to the Texas Department of Agriculture. So only about 1/1,000,000th of the total farm and ranch land in Texas. The idea that SB3 will cause drastic damage to the Texas farming industry is a fake narrative pushed by the hemp industry. Another common claim by the hemp industry is that SB3 will hurt small businesses and that it's only a few bad actors that are likely responsible for illegal activity. To test this, in April of this year, I identified and surveyed the largest hemp retail chains in the state of Texas to analyze their products and practices. My research clearly disproved this claim and showed that the largest hemp retailers in Texas are in fact some of the largest purveyors today of illicit products in the state of Texas, and 35% of them were within 1,000 feet of a school. All the major retailers that I visited were selling products containing at least 100 times the amount of THC legally allowed in states that have fully legalized recreational marijuana, such as California and Colorado. These extremely high-potency products often also include synthetic THC variants like THCP, which are often marketed as being 33 times more potent than naturally grown cannabis. All the stores that I visited also sold products that contained at least 90% THC, dramatically increasing the risks for serious mental health issues like psychosis, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, and addiction. These products are not only potent, they're designed to appeal to young people. Brightly colored packaging, cartoon characters, and imitations of popular snack brands substantially increase the risk of accidental ingestion by kids. From 2017 to 2022, Texas Poison Control Centers reported nearly a 500% increase in cannabis-related calls for children 5 years and younger. As you can see here in this image, these retailers sell many dangerous products, substances even beyond marijuana, including hallucinogenic mushrooms, inhalants like nitrous oxide and nitrate poppers, high-potency synthetic kratom products that interact with opioid receptors, some in the form of flavored ice cream cones, and even tianeptine, commonly known as gas station heroin. Many of these products are packaged and marketed in ways that make them both appealing and accessible to young people. Despite clear prohibitions under federal and state laws, these products are openly sold and deceptively marketed. These are not medicine nor wellness products. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration warns consumers to not use any of these. And it's not just a handful of bad actors. The largest retail chains in Texas, which set the standard for the industry, routinely disregard the law and jeopardize the health and safety of our communities. While many of these products sold by these stores are clearly illegal, even more deliberately exploit legal gray area, making enforcement extremely challenging. In public statements, Governor Abbott has explicitly reiterated that marijuana remains illegal in Texas. As stated in his letter signed by Lieutenant Governor Patrick and Speaker Bonin in 2019 upon signing House Bill 1325, quote, marijuana has not been decriminalized in Texas. Criminals should be on notice that they may continue to be prosecuted for possession of marijuana and may now be prosecuted for illegal possession of hemp without a proper certificate. Yet, due to the industry's exploitation of legal ambiguities, marijuana products are sold openly in our communities, putting everyone, particularly our youth, in serious danger. Senate Bill 3 directly addresses these issues by clearly defining what is legal and providing law enforcement with the tools that they need to effectively enforce the law. We respectfully urge Governor Abbott to sign Senate Bill 3 into law. Governor Abbott, your decisive action on Senate Bill 3 will help ensure the health, safety, and future of all Texans. We deeply appreciate your courageous leadership on this critical health issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rusheim. And now I am honored to bring up Representative David Lowe.
Good afternoon. As a veteran who struggled with combat-related PTSD, I've lived through the struggle. Every doctor and every counselor I worked with, military and civilian, gave me the same urgent advice: stay away from THC. It doesn't heal, it numbs the symptoms, gives false comfort, and delays the real work of recovery. That's why I'm deeply troubled that veterans are being used as props to push unregulated THC. We must stop exploiting veterans' pain to promote products that aren't proven, aren't regulated, and in many cases aren't safe. Veterans deserve treatment rooted in truth, not marketing. Now the data is catching up. THC-related injuries are skyrocketing. And the more I've learned about the side effects of recreational THC, the more disappointed and frankly alarmed I've become at how little regulation exists in Texas today. There may be legitimate uses for some hemp products, but we cannot pretend that this unregulated flood of intoxicating substances is safe. It's not. It's reaching children and young adults, and it's being marketed in slick packaging with no guardrails, no accountability, no concern for the long-term consequences. Some have accused me of being a shill for Big Pharma. Let me be clear. I have serious ethical issues with Big Pharma. In 2024, a few of my colleagues and I signed a pledge to not accept a single dime from pharmaceutical companies. And I still stand by that pledge today. My support for SB3 has nothing to do with pharmaceutical companies and has everything to do with protecting Texas families. I believe passing Senate Bill 3 is one of the greatest accomplishments of this legislative session. And I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick for his strong, steady leadership when it mattered most. Because of that, Texas is safer today. God bless Texas.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Holt. I'm CEO of Texans for Safe and Drug-Free Youth, the statewide nonprofit focused on preventing youth substance use by using evidence-based prevention strategies that create healthier and safer communities. SB3 protects Texas youth. Research tells us that when product access increases, use also increases. In our state, there is unprecedented access to intoxicating cannabis and cannabis-derived products with no limitations on products themselves or their marketing strategies. For the past several years, our coalition members have been collecting images of the products. No matter where you go in this state, these products are everywhere. In addition to vape stores, these products are in kiosks, in malls, next to kid zones. They're in vending machines, in practically every gas station and convenience store. I have watched folks claim recently in public forums that cannabis use is safe, that no one dies from cannabis use, but that simply isn't true. The evidence is clear. 13% of Texas middle and high school students report using cannabis, and 1 in 4 high school seniors are using the drug. You will hear people here today discuss the dangers of early cannabis use and its long-term consequences, increasing the risk of addiction, harming brain development, and contributing to mental health issues such as depression and psychosis. What you never hear people discussing is the impaired driving consequences resulting from use of these intoxicating products. In Texas, while alcohol remains the leading cause of fatal crashes, alcohol combined with cannabis is the second most common cause of deadly impaired driving crashes in our state. The combination of alcohol and cannabis is the most common drug combination in impaired driving crashes in our state as well. And young drivers are particularly at risk. 26% of crash fatalities among those 25 and younger involve both cannabis and alcohol. Those are real lives. Those deaths are someone's life ended too soon. Those families will never be the same. And when there's an impaired driver on the road, we are all at risk. Parents, teachers, law enforcement, and community leaders are all saying the same thing. These products should not be easy for kids to get and need to be removed from Texas shelves. I encourage the governor to sign SB3 into law and to help keep our children and communities safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine. Until 2 years ago, I knew nothing about THC. Then we got the phone call that changed everything. My son did not start using THC until after college graduation at the age of 22, a full-grown adult. Within 8 months, he was using every day and was addicted. He had no previous mental health concerns. THC products in all forms today are addictive and causing symptoms of psychosis, including delusions, paranoia, and auditory and visual hallucinations. Long-term, which means 1 year or more, heavy, which means 3 times a week or more, use of THC increases both anxiety and depression. The industry does not tell you that when you will build up a tolerance and your brain will crave greater quantities, more often, or at increased potency. Anxiety and depression are 2 of the very conditions that THC is touted as being beneficial for. It simply is not. What it is beneficial for is lining the pocketbooks of the intoxicating hemp industry. This is an addiction for profit industry that has no concern for the negative consequences of its products. Most of the individuals who are being diagnosed with cannabis-induced psychotic disorder had no previous mental health conditions. When the industry tells you otherwise, it is just another piece of their incorrect rhetoric that they are weaving into the very fabric of our society. They use terms like finding relief, God's medicine, all natural. These products are anything but natural. They are highly potent, addictive, and causing devastating symptoms and outcomes for thousands, including my loved one. In 2023, 19.2 million people had a cannabis use disorder, that number driven by these THC products. This spring, on walks in my neighborhood, I found 3 empty vape cartridge packages. This bag contains those, plus 1 I found in my son's car, and 2 that I purchased to get an idea of just what was out there. These products are from 60 to 80%, over 80% potency of THC. Their wrappers are littering our neighborhoods, and their contents are addicting millions of people. Most people who use them do not even realize they have a substance use disorder. The industry is following the playbook of big tobacco. Cigarettes were called nicotine delivery devices. These vapes can be called THC delivery devices, and I call them addiction delivery devices. We do not need to wait 50 years before we announce to the public that these products are harmful. I call on our national government to produce a high-profile public awareness campaign spelling out the harms of THC. We and you need to do that now. We do not need more addiction delivery devices in Texas. We have enough of them already. It is truly unbelievable that we are having to fight to ban products that often and easily induce psychosis for thousands. Methamphetamine used to lead the way as the drug that induced psychosis the most. Meth has been replaced by THC as the drug leading to psychosis most often. Would the governor, our legislators, or our general public be fine with smoke shops and gas stations selling meth to people of all ages? No. If the federal government cannot close the loophole it created with the 2018 Farm Bill, then Texas will close its own loophole. I ask Governor Abbott to stop this literal insanity and to do what is right by supporting SB3 to save Texans' brains and their futures. Texans' brains are worth infinitely more than any amount of tax revenue the intoxicating hemp industry can provide. I've got a lot more to say. I know I need to leave time for other people. I just wanted to say this is the hemp that we thought we were producing, a dime bags backpack. This is what we got, okay? That's what our legislators accidentally legalized. I would invite you to learn more about THC, be a lifesaver, and go to these websites. I've got information and products up here for you to come talk to me about, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mari Cruz. I want to thank our legislators for tireless working on the much-needed SB3 bill. Thank you also to the doctors who have shared their research and knowledge. But most of all, I want to thank my friends in this group, a group I never imagined I'll be part of. These women right here are the real heroes. Let me say it again. These women right here are the real heroes. Despite everything they have been through, they continue to share their heartbreaking stories to prevent other families from going through the same pain. Most of the children were over 21 years when they started using THC products. My son used to do freelance camera work for political, corporate, and church events. His schedule often changed, so he thought hemp-derived THC gummies would be a better option to help him sleep than medicines. He was 25. He was a healthy, kind, and productive with a successful career ahead of him. He had never shown any sign of mental illness, and there's no history of it in our family. Over time, he began using other products like cookies, lollipops, and vapes. What began as an occasional use gradually turned into dependency. Even though he was still productive, his behavior started to change. Then, at age 27, he had a full psychotic break. He lacks awareness of his illness because he's an adult and is not considered harmful or danger to himself or others. We have been unable to get him the dual treatment he needs. Treatment that will cost us about $25,000 a month. After a year without THC products, he was beginning to improve. Sadly, he relapsed with a vape, still believing it will help him stay alert. This particular THCP, as mentioned before, is a kind of vape to be up to 33 times more potent than regular THC. Within days, strong and new psychotic symptoms started to appear. THC-induced psychosis is real. It can happen to people with no history of mental illness. People using these products are gambling with their health, assuming that if something is legal, it must be safe. Any profits the industry claims to bring to the state are minimal compared to the harm and financial burden to our families. Our son is fully dependent on our help and is struggling with hallucinations and impaired cognition. It is difficult to run our business now, and we are using our retirement funds to support him and cover up our living expenses. It has been 2 heartbreaking years for the whole family. All of this could have been prevented. I respectfully urge Governor Abbott to sign SB3 into law. This bill is long overdue. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rhonda. I'm a Houston citizen, and I have a son who is diagnosed with cannabis-induced psychosis. He is now 24, will be 25 soon, and this industry has paralyzed his brain. He went off to college, started right here in Texas, and started using marijuana occasionally for mild anxiety. He came home his sophomore year during Christmas, and he and friends hung out every day using products from the local vape store around the corner, different things, edibles, vape pens, until he became psychotic. Took him to the hospital, and the only thing that was in his system was THC. He exited there, went back to school, me not knowing how THC impacted his brain to the point where an addiction could happen, to the point where continued use of the product would continue to bring him back to a psychotic state. I didn't know. The education wasn't there. Once understanding and realizing what this drug was doing to my son, tried to get him into a dual diagnosis program. But guess what? They don't treat THC addiction. They treat alcohol addiction, they treat opioid addiction, but not THC. So he was not accepted. Insurance wouldn't pay for it. Found a program out of state, minimum payment, $5,000, $6,000 a month. Who can afford that? Charged up credit cards to get him treatment. To this day, he still thinks marijuana is okay because of that state that he was brought to. The passage of the 2018 Farm Bill has led to the misperception that all products made from or containing hemp, including those made with CBD, are now legal to sell through interstate commerce, through online and in storefronts. The storefronts here in Houston alone are multiplying. Just from the time that I came and testified a few months ago, there's a new one that's opened up around the corner from me. These are within blocks of each other. Why do we need so much? We don't. These aren't health centers. These are hell centers, is what I call them. We as Texans have to stop putting revenue over reality. The reality that these synthetic cannabinoids are causing serious physical and mental health conditions. We ask that the governor stand by the vote of the House and Senate and sign SB3 into law. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you to all these families. Before we bring more families up, I'm going to make a kind request to the gentleman that's here from the hemp industry. We respect you. We're not coming after you. We need you to quit smirking and imitating these families right now. It's very difficult for them to be here today from the harassment they've already endured and the bullying. So I'm going to kindly ask you if you could please exit the room so we can continue our press conference. You can access these videos. They will be on social media. And I'm really, we really want them to be able to speak the truth. The public deserves to know the truth. Thank you. I would appreciate it if you would quit smirking. You are free to be here. I'm kindly asking you to stop smirking and intimidating the families.
We would appreciate if you left.
I'll respond to
It's not your turn.
Hi, my name's Dee Dee. I'm a business owner, a wife, a mother, and for the past 3 years, our family has endured imaginable pain. Our son started vaping Delta 8s, Delta 9s, THC in college, and what began as harmless habit quickly spiraled into a mental health crisis. He became paranoid, delusional, and convinced that the CIA and the Illuminati were following him. He dropped out of school. His condition completely unraveled. We went through ER visits, psychiatric hospitals, 4 treatment centers, all costing thousands of dollars, and even out-of-state rehabilitation centers because of the lack of medical knowledge here in Texas. Each giving us different answers, but never a lasting solution. In March of 2024, after a suicide attempt, he was finally hospitalized and given a genetic test that revealed which medication, after trials of different medications, would work best with him. This medication has us doing weekly blood work that has to go up to the REMS system and getting weekly amounts of pills from different pharmacies who can fill it. And this is his prolonged psychotic episode has turned into severe chronic mental illness. Today, he not only lives with this debilitating condition, also major side effects from the medication, hypertension, depression, and medicated-induced liver disease and pre-diabetic. This medicine helps manage the symptoms of psychosis, but it comes at a heavy cost. If I had known, or we had known, the dangers of these unregulated THC products, this might have prevented this might have prevented us being here today. In the world of cannabis-induced psychosis, we as families, we struggle to fight for our loved ones' well-being and put them back in the path of wellness. It's a dark, horror-filled war against unseen enemies. Delusions, hallucination, depression all become weapons of mass destruction. And unlike the ability we have to heal physical wounds, fixing mental ills of people is not easy, and many of the solutions require much trial and error. And unfortunately, many of our families or our children return back to cannabis to help regulate their feelings. I would urge Governor Abbott to please sign Senate Bill 3 for other children and for their health. Thank you.
My name is Ivana Ponte. I'm here on behalf of Every Brain Matters, Citizens for a Safe and Healthy Texas, on behalf of HTC Youth Center, on behalf of my family, your family. My entire family has been deeply affected by hemp-derived THC products. My loved one was not underage when they began using poisonous substances. They went from being loving and kind member of our family to someone consumed by anger and violence, harming not only themselves, but others as well. They ended up in the hospital multiple times with psychosis and now faces astronomical and overwhelming medical bills. We were forced to sell our home and relocate and keep our address private from this loved one to avoid being terrorized in person. It is outrageous to hear that businesses are making billions of dollars at the expense of thousands of families like mine. You cannot regulate a predatory for-profit industry like this. They are turning people into addicts while enlarging their pockets. They are not generating new money. The money is already here in the state. It's the same money circulating, but now just going up in smoke. I respectfully urge Governor Abbott to ban this poison and sign SB3 into law. I ask you, Governor Abbott, for you, for your family, for ours, for your grandchildren, for our grandchildren. I could say, let's be a drug-free Texas. Well, we could start here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm from Katy, Texas. I'm a parent of 3 children, and all of my children have attended the Katy ISD school district. So my story that I'm going to tell you is about what happens when the preteens and the adolescents get their hands on synthetic THC vapes. My daughter was very well adjusted, very happy, no family history of any mental illness. In 9th grade, all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, she's having a panic attack in her 9th grade Spanish class. Unbeknownst to me, she had started experimenting with the THC vapes and doing them on a fairly regular basis to alleviate her anxiety. This led to a cycle of depression, deepening the anxiety, deepening the depression, and one morning at 3 a.m., I simply got a text message from her, "Mommy, help me." I didn't get it till I woke up the next morning, and when I went to go ask her what she's talking about, she's telling me she's having suicidal thoughts and she can no longer control what's going on inside of her head. I immediately jumped into action like most parents do and sought the help of psychologists for a professional diagnosis, of which, of course, was anxiety and depression. But she struggles with breaking the addiction of using synthetic THC vapes. That was 3 years ago. She has improved. She went through years of psychologists on a weekly basis and treatment to help her manage her emotions. Where is she now? She's struggling still with breaking that addiction to the synthetic THC vapes. So I ask all of the media here, if you don't believe our stories as parents, go ask a Katy ISD administrator. Talk to the principals of the high schools. Talk to your junior highs. Ask the teachers, how many of these kids are using the synthetic THC vapes, and what correlation does that make to the increases in anxiety, depression, and suicide among our children right now? Our house is located directly across the street from a 6A high school. Within a 5-mile radius, there are at least 5 vape shops with their neon signs, free THC, come and get it. That doesn't even include the junior highs. So we're in one of the largest school districts in the state of Texas. Thousands and thousands of high school and junior high kids can simply walk across the street from their school and walk into one of these stores and get their hands on a sour gummy worm loaded with THC with potency levels that are not accurately marked, or go ahead and buy a synthetic THC cartridge. Go home and smoke that and share it with your friends and then see what it's doing to their mental well-being. So we're not lobbyists. We're not making money off this. We're just parents with kids that need a little bit of help from Governor Abbott. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bruna. We need the Governor Abbott to sign SB3 into law. I beg you for complete ban of all THC products. Our family has already paid the price financially and emotionally. We should not be negotiating people's health and lives. My son was friendly, big heart, gifted student, Taekwondo black belt, attending religious education, went to church weekly. We cherished memories on family vacations, camping with friends, Boy Scouts, caring, excellent student. His behavior changed after he started using THC. He was 14 years old. He could not finish high school, lost his childhood friends, and began to lie and withhold information from us. He stopped attending church with us, struggled to maintain simple conversations, and found it increasingly difficult to socialize or keep a job. His health deteriorated and lost weight. His once beautiful smile just disappeared. After using THC sold in vape shops in our neighborhood, my son became aggressive, not reasoning, not able to express himself. My husband and I had to hide kitchen knives and sleep with our bedroom door locked. At that point, of course, I had to quit my job and my public health classes at UT. A few days before his first psychotic episode in February 14, 24, he displayed signs of lethargy and took an unusually long time to respond to simple questions. Then he began hearing voices from our backyard. He ran out of the house barefoot without his driver's license. He drove on the wrong side of a major highway and was involved in not one, but two different separate car accidents. He thought he was bleeding to death, and he walked himself across the street to the Memorial Home. He was restrained by 5 police officers. No, he was not bleeding. He was still in psychosis. He thought he was dying. He didn't have anything from those 2 car accidents, but he thought he was bleeding, he was dying. And one time, I was so scared and frightened. He would walk with a big knife all over. And so I spent 4 nights in a hotel and leaving my husband to watch him back in the house. He grabbed my husband by the neck and told him he could kill him. December 2nd, 2024, he had another psychosis episode due to cannabis THC. He said he saw ghosts in our home, and he asked us to put him to sleep. He was aggressive. He punched huge holes in our walls. We had to call 911. He was sedated and was admitted a second time in the behavioral hospital in Houston. And this is followed by the 3rd rehab stay. I'm not going to share here costs. You can kind of imagine costs of all this. At that point, 2 hospitals, actually 2 rehabs denied because of his schizoaffective diagnosis that the doctor gave. So the 3rd rehab accepted him. He's somewhat stable now, but he's in a sober living because of his, he's not still mentally there yet to secure a job and everything. We paid $2,000 for this sober living. And hopefully one day our family goes back to normal. Governor Abbott signed SB3 stop this nightmare from happening to other families.
My name is Jennifer Richter, and my family has been deeply harmed by the sale of THC, high-potency THC. Our 24-year-old son was healthy, athletic, and successful, and began using synthetic THC vapes and other high-potency products that he purchased from a shop in Austin. Within months, he couldn't eat, he lost 40 pounds, he became paranoid, and he suffered a terrifying psychotic episode. We have no family history of mental illness. One night I had to lock myself in my room, afraid of my own son. He destroyed our kitchen. He took a corkscrew to our refrigerator, to all of our countertops. He thought people on X were coming to murder us, and he nearly confronted a neighbor at 2 a.m. At Seton downtown, the psych pods were filled with young people his age, all with cannabis-induced psychosis, something they told me that they were seeing regularly. I had no idea what it was until that night. Just Google high-potency THC and psychosis. The evidence is overwhelming. I did it when I got home that night, and this is what I found. The Atlantic, marijuana is too strong now. Literally the first sentence. What people turn to for fun and relaxation now triggers existential dread and paranoia. Yale School of Medicine, Rising THC concentrations can pose health risks. NPR, highly potent weed has swept the market, raising concern about health risks. NBC News, high potency THC and psychotic disorders. And CNN, high potent weed, creating marijuana addicts worldwide. The FDA says that 10 milligrams of THC can cause psychosis. So the vapes I found, 3,000 milligrams. And 13 unknown chemicals when tested in a lab. I didn't realize, as many don't, that 1980s weed is 1.5% THC content. So this here, THCP, is 33 times stronger. So if we put that, it's the difference between one joint in 1980 and 33 joints from this. And if we all think that people aren't getting in their car and driving once they've done this, we're all pretty naive. The $8 billion industry has had a chance to self-regulate, just like the toy, the food, the airline industries did before we had laws, but they haven't. They followed the big tobacco playbook, target the young, that's obvious, saturate the market, they're everywhere, and deny the harm. So many of them came to those hearings and they pretty much sat there in their testimonies, and many said that we were all lying. The industry is targeting teens. I've had friends who have since looked back at bank statements and found that their kids, minors in high school, were buying THC products from vape shops. The industry can say they don't sell to minors, but bank statements don't lie. On Highway 71 between 620 and Southwest Parkway, on the right side of the highway, you can see 3 vape shops. You can hit them within about 20 seconds. That's predatory. I posted our story on Facebook. It took me a while to do it. And within 30 minutes, friends of friends, strangers, had messaged me. One was a mom in the Lake Travis area that told me that her 19-year-old son in 2023 had been using cannabis. He would buy vapes, she would get rid of them, he would buy them again, and he ended his life. Another is a single mom in Lakeway that told me today she is spending $4,500 a day for rehab for her 19-year-old son who had cannabis-induced psychosis. And last night, I have a longtime friend who lost her brother to suicide when he was 23. And she messaged me to let me know, to thank me for coming today, and told me, I'm glad you're standing up and saying something, because my brother was using cannabis and went in psychosis, and that's when he shot himself in the head. Governor Abbott, please don't ignore the damage any longer. These products are not medicine. They are dangerous, they are intoxicating, and they are disguised as legal hemp. So earlier today, there was someone at the press conference that said, oh, people have warnings, they know the damage. There is only one county in the whole nation, McHenry in Illinois, that is required by their attorney general to post warning signs for psychosis, or that the FDA does not consider these approved for medicinal purposes. So I call BS on that. People are not warned. And this is another vape my son used. It is distributed out of South Carolina, has a California warning label, yet it's illegal in California. It talks about the chemicals, but they don't know what chemicals are in them, and half of the COAs, the certificates of analysis, have varied, who knows how to probably even read them, A, as a consumer, but B, some of them are not accurate, a lot aren't. And then it gives warnings. Nowhere in that warning does it talk about psychosis. And we're seeing it worldwide. There are families that are on a Facebook page that we're on, thousands and thousands, from as far as Australia, the UK, Germany, everywhere. And just this morning, 15 new families joined. Governor Abbott, these products are fueling addiction, and frankly, it's consumer fraud, what we're seeing. Texans are counting on you, please, to stand by the side of public health, safety, and to protect Texans. Please sign SB3 into law.
Hello, my name is Isabel Richter, and I'm here to tell my story in support of Senate Bill 3. This is a personal topic for me and my family. My older brother was a healthy, successful 24-year-old with no signs or family history of mental illness. Everything changed when he legally purchased a synthetic THC vape from a local vape smoke shop in Austin. Within just a few months, he began to isolate himself from family and friends and suffered a severe psychotic break that required hospitalization. I watched my older brother, my role model, who I would go to for advice many of the time, lose control of his mind, and saw my parents live in fear of their own son. None of us recognized or could make sense of what he was experiencing. It truly did not make sense. Doctors diagnosed him with cannabis-induced psychosis. They told us they're seeing a record number of otherwise healthy kids and adults suddenly becoming psychotic without any family history of mental illness. The only correlation is their use of synthetic THC. These products are not medicine. They are dangerous, highly concentrated, and addictive chemicals disguised as harmless. A single vape can contain thousands of milligrams of THC, along with unknown chemicals, no warning labels, and no dosage guidance. The FDA has stated that just 10 milligrams of THC can trigger psychosis. Yet here in Texas, we're allowing products with hundreds of times that amount to be sold legally at gas stations right next to candy and gum. These products are banned in states like Colorado and California, where marijuana is legal. Yet here in Texas, synthetic THC is sold freely and marketed as a pleasant escape from reality or as a means of safe self-medicating. Nothing about these products is pleasant or safe. Opponents of SB3 will argue that banning synthetic THC will hurt small businesses or restrict consumer choice. No business should profit off the permanent destruction of someone's brain. Opponents will also claim that adults should have the freedom to choose. But let me also be clear, no one chooses psychosis. As a young adult, I have seen several people around me in their 20s with so much going for them become addicted to THC, become paranoid, and lose relationships and negatively impact their future. The lives of young Texans rest in the decision to pass this monumental piece of legislation. As journalists, I ask you to report on stories like the ones you have heard today so that people understand the real impact that this product has on the lives of Texans, our communities, and our families. Governor Abbott, I ask you to please sign SB3 into law. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Matt Poling, a board-certified family physician who, along with the emergency room doctors, are on the front line of today's drug culture and mental health crisis. I'm also a medical school faculty teaching on cardiovascular diseases, a parent, a foster parent, and a veteran of the United States Air Force. I want to thank you all for being here and for your interest in this important matter of public health and safety. Imagine with me for a moment that we are not here today to blow the whistle on a lucrative product of the THC hemp industry, but one from Big Pharma. Imagine Big Pharma was making good for what ails you claims based mostly on anecdotes and customer testimonials. They have some studies which do show potential benefits in some limited settings, such as chemotherapy-induced vomiting and muscle spasticity in MS, but the studies on chronic pain are conflicting, with some studies showing no benefit above a placebo effect, and little prospective evidence that users of their products are able to reduce their opioid use. Now, the industry reassures the public that their product is safe and natural, although it uses a variety of unpronounceable chemical processes to convert the natural plant into an alphabet soup of unlabeled chemical compounds. They brought their product to market without any of the usual side effect warnings, but if they were compelled, it might read something like this. This product has been determined by the American Psychiatric Association to not be a treatment for any psychiatric condition and is strongly associated with the development of severe psychiatric disorders, including schizophrenia. Our product is now the #1 environmental factor in the development of schizophrenia and is responsible for an estimated 30% of all new cases in young adult men, our primary customers. The Veterans Administration does not recommend its use for treatment of PTSD, as it has the potential to worsen these symptoms long term. This product dramatically increases the risk of developing suicidal thoughts and suicide attempts. In states which have made this product available without a prescription, it has increased the rates of youth opioid overdose deaths. The Texas Department of Family and Protective Services has determined that our product is the main substance implicated in child abuse and neglect fatalities. Our product is strongly associated with criminal behaviors and is known to increase the risk of violence, especially in youth and young adults. There have been numerous case reports of our customers committing random acts of mass violence, with victims including Texas churchgoers and elementary school students and their teachers. 1 in 3 users of our product will become addicted. Cases of uncontrolled vomiting leading to emergency room visits and hospitalizations are common and occasionally fatal for regular users of our products. Users with severe enough side effects to present to an emergency room are 50% more likely to develop dementia and 3 times more likely to die in the next 5 years than similar patients, even after adjusting for race, sex, income, and underlying mental and physical health conditions. Our product has been proven to cause damage to major blood vessels, which predispose our customers to heart attacks and strokes, regardless of the mechanism of ingestion. Use of our product is associated with an increase in motor vehicle and pedestrian deaths, failure to graduate from high school or college, job absenteeism, decreased worker productivity, and homelessness. States which have allowed our product to be mass marketed estimate spending more than $4 for every dollar taken in sales tax revenue in an attempt to mitigate the harms of our product. Now imagine that Big Pharma not only wants their product available under medical supervision, but also in more than 8,000 gas stations, smoke shops, and vending machines, despite the objection of major medical groups, including the Texas Medical Association, Texas Nurses Association, Texas Hospital Association, and Texas Pediatric Society. Now imagine Big Pharma was recruiting veterans and paying veterans groups to shill for their products in an attempt to gaslight the public. Add to that the fact that they had already been caught routinely selling this product to underage customers who are at the most risk of harm. Now, in such a scenario, you would not have seen just this strong bipartisan vote in favor of Senate Bill 3. You would have seen a unanimous vote. Because if this were the pharmaceutical industry or any other industry, the news media would have done a much better job informing the public of all of these facts. The fact that there's still even a debate about this is a reflection of institutional failures. Doctors have failed to speak loudly and clearly enough about what the science clearly shows. The mainstream media has been slow to see through the THC industry smokescreen. It has failed to examine the industry's talking points with its usual skepticism and has thus failed to warn the public of the proven risks. That failure has led to a bipartisan, anti-science, anti-health and safety online cacophony of false claims, misleading testimonials, and wild conspiracy theories. These have drowned out the medical evidence and now threatens our most vulnerable citizens. We all have to do better, because this is not a war against drugs, which regardless of which laws are enacted this session, we will always have with us. But it is a war against distortion, misinformation, and exploitation. And it is a war for science, public health, and our next generation. I encourage you to tell the rest of the THC story, and I encourage the governor to endorse the courageous leadership of the Texas House and Senate by signing Senate Bill 3.
Thank you, Dr. Pilling. In closing, I want to give you an example. I don't advocate for alcohol use, but we've got to dispel all the deception from the hemp industry. If I take a shot of whiskey, I am going to become intoxicated. As long as I don't drink more, that intoxication will wear off within a few hours. If I take a hit of THC, I will become intoxicated and possibly psychotic. When that intoxication wears off from the THC, I can still be psychotic. That doesn't happen with a shot of alcohol. We must tell the truth. A study just came out from Science Direct about Colorado in the Journal of Drug and Alcohol Dependence, volume 273. It concluded, psychosis-related hospitalizations rose modestly in Colorado after cannabis legalization. Higher rates of psychosis hospitalizations were observed among 21 to 29-year-olds. Psychosis encounters with a cannabis diagnosis increased significantly after legalization. Our families are offended and horrified that the hemp industry prefers their profits over the health and safety of Texans. Without this Senate Bill 3 being signed into law, Texas has essentially legalized unregulated recreational marijuana use. We, the families, have already paid a huge price financially and emotionally. We ask Governor Abbott to immediately sign SB3 into law. Thank you for coming today. We are open for questions. No, sir, we're not answering any questions for you. Okay, I see no questions. Thank you so much for coming today.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Maybe a few. Most of these children were over the age of 21 when this THC psychosis started. So if the governor were to veto SB3, would y'all be willing to work with the hemp industry to help regulate and prohibit these products from children, to only allow access to adults for use, such as veterans and people that are fighting to keep these products alive?
I cannot speak for all the families standing here today. I personally have tried to work with the hemp industry and cannabis industry. They are abusive. They are regulation resistant. I would prefer Texans not to go down the road of California and Colorado because the ultimate goal of the Drug Policy Alliance is to legalize all drugs, and that's not good for Texans. Okay, Dr. Pauling.
I mean, you're probably aware of the Texas Compassionate Use Program.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's reviewed every 2 years, and the science is looked at, and frankly, it's quite liberal from my perspective with respect to what conditions qualify. There's some conditions that qualify. Frankly, the science is not settled on. So I think legitimate patients are given the benefit of the doubt. Whether it's going to be proved to be helpful or not for their condition, I think is an open question. But at least it's given under medical supervision, not from a vending machine or a gas station attendant.
So if those were restrictions that were put into place, would you guys be willing to back those restrictions?
They're already not supposed to sell to customers under age 21, and they already do. That's the most obvious, clear regulation that there could be, and they've already proven that they're going to ignore that. I have no confidence they're going to follow any other less serious regulation.
So from my following on these hearings and issues, the hemp industry has been urging legislation to pass age restriction for the last 2 sessions.
They already ignore their own policy and restrictions by selling. I can tell you personally, my son, pimple-faced teenager, okay, we had our own personal sting operation. We went to Google Maps, we found the 5 closest smoke shops to our home in a suburban neighborhood, okay? 3 of the 5, we're going to sell him that product without an ID against the law. No, we don't believe they're going to follow those regulations. I don't believe the state government or the citizens of the state want to build a government big enough to regulate an industry like the THC hemp industry. It's much more efficient and simpler just to ban the product entirely.
I was gonna add the same. Texans don't want a big government. There's not enough tax money to regulate this predatory addiction for profit THC industry.
And I don't understand how an age regulation changes the fact that it harms people. It harms you at 23 like it harms you at 24. So what is the benefit to our society and our communities by putting just an age restriction? What's the benefit to doing that?
Yeah. I also want to add, and this is not anything that anybody represents up here, Texans like their guns. If you pump more THC into the community and cause more mental illness, the red flag laws come after. So I don't think that's the pathway Texans want to go down.
What would, in regards to the guns, what would you say about Texans that want access to products like this, but federal law being scheduling cannabis under?
That's not a me problem. That's not a Texas taxpayer problem. That's a their problem. We don't want these products promoted and in our neighborhoods and around our schools. We don't want them in deceptive forms. We don't want them in our neighborhoods. So people are going to use, that's their choice. We don't have to enable that and go down this destructive path like Colorado and California has done.
Senator Sparks, would you mind joining us up on the stage just to say a few words? Are you out of session? Congratulations.
Yeah, not long. Hey, thank you guys. Yeah, let me just tell you guys, thank y'all for all of the work that you have done, because this wouldn't have happened without really kind of a grassroots effort to really get the word out. One of the things that we've talked about a number of times is the fact that our parents don't really understand these products, and they don't understand that our children are finding these products way sooner than parents think they should or would. My district, pretty rural, 45 counties, West Texas and the Panhandle, and I did a 24-town tour last October. And in a lot of smaller communities. And this was the number 2 issue that came up in almost every town hall that we did. And it was first and foremost the law enforcement, because they didn't have tools to deal with any of this. But second was public education. And our teachers are going, you know what, it's really hard to teach kids when they're high. And I think the thing that was most shocking about it was that they're seeing these products down into 5th and 6th grade. And that's why I think parents, you know, we have 4 kids, but these weren't issues when we had little kids. And so I can't thank you guys enough for the effort that you guys mounted to try and help get this legislation across the goal line. I thank Senator Perry. I thank you for our friends in the House that saw the wisdom in this, the Lieutenant Governor's support for this, and the Governor. And we encourage the Governor to pass this legislation because it's critical for our kids and really for our adults. I mean, it was hard to believe the other day in the press conference that we had in the Senate with the Lieutenant Governor, and we've got the press asking, well, what about adults? Well, when you understand some of the repercussions of a lot of this material can create psychotic breaks. And, you know, I sit on the Health and Human Services Committee in the Senate, and one of our biggest issues is the proliferation of mental health issues. And there's no doubt in my mind, and we're seeing reports from other places around the world who have been kind of ahead of us in all the THC use and have been studying it. We're seeing that, you know, yes, there are studies that are coming out showing that this greatly increases the chance of different types of mental illness occurrences due to these products. And so I'm thankful that for Texas, for Texans, we've made this choice. And, you know, I was thankful we're going to have the ability for the medical industry to use this product as a medicine, but it will be highly supervised, which is exactly where it needs to be. And so, anyway, anything else?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Like I said, we could not have done it without y'all's help. So, job well done. Now, we've already talked about it. Obviously, the next thing that needs to happen is we've got to continue to educate, right? A lot of folks that are pretty steamed about this. We've got to continue to help educate our population that this was the right thing to do, and here's why.
I prepared you a homework assignment for the between sessions.
Good. You know what? I was just visiting with my staff. We just signed it out about 30, 45 minutes ago. Yeah, about 30 minutes ago, and I was just telling my staff, you know, we got to get working. So, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from the media? Yes, yes, sir.
So, and with this obviously being about people's safety, children's safety, I'm just curious how anyone feels about the hearing that held school funds and teachers' raises hostage to pass SB3 because
That's such a good question. There was no holding hostage. That was taking a public stand by a courageous Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, saving children's lives, helping the teachers. There was nothing held hostage. That was him taking a stand, doing his civic duty to protect the health and safety of Texas children. And framing it that way is a disservice to him and his work in the great state of Texas. Thank you for that question. I really appreciate clearing that up.
Great questions. Yeah, quick follow-up on that. I mean, there's a clear linkage between educational achievement and kids that are drug-free and those that are using any substances. And clearly, the data is very strong with respect to THC. So yeah, I think you're doing the right thing for public and private education, both when you're keeping these products out of the hands of young people and their parents. As I mentioned, child abuse and neglect fatalities, the #1 substance implicated, according to the Department of Child and Family Protective Services, when they investigate child abuse and neglect fatalities, is THC. It's not meth, it's not narcotics, it's not alcohol, it's THC.
So what about the representatives that spoke up in opposition of SB3 and in regards to that school fund bill they claimed was hostage to SB3?
I don't think it's being held hostage. I disagree with them. I think there's no other elected official like Dan Patrick, the way he took a stand. That's what it takes to stand up for Texas families and their children, what he did. It's not holding it hostage. It's saving them. So I disagree with them.
And is everyone aware that Anheuser-Busch is a fundraiser as a sponsor of Safer Texas Alliance?
I think there are people that don't want THC in Texas, and there's a variety of them.
And I ran the numbers in regards to related deaths to DWIs, alcohol-related drunk driving with
Wait, Nicole, this is an impaired driving question that you probably could answer better than I could.
While we're waiting, the first part of your question, politics make strange bedfellows, as they say. Look at what the liquor industry did during this session. Have you looked into that? Somebody wanted THC in their beverages, and they spent a lot of money to get it in there. Thankfully, we've sine-died, and that did not happen. But there's more to that story.
Which is even worse than
Yeah,
some of these
yeah,
products we've
yeah.
seen.
If you make alcohol with any drug, especially THC, you intensify the risk of THC. Nobody here is advocating for alcohol use or any drug use. Here, you want to ask your impaired driving question to Nicole? Can you have time?
Yeah, the average number of minor deaths caused by drunk driving averaged out to 1 per day. And I was just wondering how we feel about that and how we are going to fight that.
I think we,
Talking about fighting impaired driving?
Minors in possession of alcohol,
Sure.
using
So we
alcohol,
work on all those
driving.
issues, and we treat them exactly the same way as we treat this one. We look at what the research says is the best practice that we should use to move forward. And in the case of this particular product, the best practice, Dr. Rossam can speak to the research, is to ban these products because that's been the most successful in other states, which is why we support that. And when we look at impaired driving, we look at youth substance use as it relates to alcohol. We look at things like ensuring that access, in particular, is what we're trying to reduce. When the young people can get their hands on a product, they're more likely to use the product. And in the case of this particular product, we just wholeheartedly opened up the doors. With alcohol, we have a whole different set of three-tiered system that we follow in order, a three-tiered system that we follow in order to try to manage the access. But still, we find that young people, because it is so expensive for us to enforce the law, that we don't have as much compliance as we like. So you find young people gaining access to the product and, again, getting an impaired driving consequences and so forth. So when she talks about how expensive it is, I mean, that's part of the problem. I mean, we have underfunded our Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission as it stands right now. They do not have the amount of law enforcement officers who are able to ensure compliance with the law as it stands right now and relative to what they had like 10 years ago. So, if it becomes challenging for us to do our job and do our job well if we don't follow all the best practices. And in the case of this particular product, the best practice is to ban the product, and Dr. Rossheim could speak to that as it relates to, where states have and have not banned the product and where they've tried to regulate the product, how they've not been very successful. So.
While I have you here, may I ask?
Nicole, can you come up and get on the mic? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So I was going to ask, how, with these alcohol and cannabis-related driving under the influence incidents, how can we ensure with THC remaining in blood content for up to 96 hours, how can we ensure that the driver was under the influence of both alcohol and cannabis at the same time?
So the pharmacological answer to that is complicated and not easy to describe, but we rely on the Texas CRIS system. They collect that data. They have a pretty rigorous process for how law enforcement share their data and put their data from impaired driving crashes. And so all of those crashes that I spoke to you come from the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Department of Transportation's CRIS data system, right? You're welcome.
Sure, yeah, and just going back between what Nicole was alluding to in your first question about, in favor or opposed to legalizing and regulating. I can't speak for any coalition, but as a research scientist, I would say that based on my work, two things. One is that if we wanted to increase use, one of the best ways to do it would be to legalize and regulate an age gate. That would increase use of these among everyone and as well as young people. What are the most commonly used substances by people under 21? Right? Those that we legalize and don't disallow to those 21 and under. alcohol, nicotine, vapes, things like that, right? So if we want to increase use of these harmful intoxicants, legalizing, regulating, age gating is a great way to do it. To the contrary, for these products specifically, I've done a study that was published last year in the American Journal of Preventive Medicine that shows that bans do work. It helps reduce access to these products throughout communities, which is, as Nicole was mentioning, the biggest determinant of use is how widely accessible products like these are.
Have you done any studies recently on spice and the K2 epidemic that we're experiencing in Austin currently, mostly amongst our homeless community?
Yeah, so there have been, I haven't done any research specifically on that recently, but there were studies that when those products were banned nationally, early 2000, like 2008 or around then, use, including among school children, did decrease following that federal prohibition. If there is a rise in the use of these products, it's probably emboldened by the current hemp industry that's, you know, playing in legal gray areas and selling products that are non-compliant, federally illegal marijuana.
Thank you. We're going to end the press conference now. We thank you all for coming. Please get your reports out there. We appreciate it. Thank you. And we appreciate all the families, all the professionals here today. They did a remarkable job. Yes.